Section B means you have to choose one question to answer. This question is about the rise of the Nazi Party and the consolidation of power 1929 to 1934. So you studied the photograph. Again, this is a past paper from June 2012, but it's just to give you the feel for what's coming in June 2013. Obviously, it won't be an identical paper. The question is about the rise of the Nazi Party and the consolidation of power. Study the photograph, answer the question. It's Hitler arriving at a mass rally at Nuremberg in 1934. 2 marks, don't waste time, get it done in 30 seconds to a minute. Award 2 marks, you'll achieve 2 marks for having 2 relevant selections from the source. Look at the caption, use the caption, a photograph of Hitler arriving at a mass rally. The word mass indicates they were large and huge. So they were huge events attracting vast crowds of Nazi supporters. They wore uniform, men in party uniform. Lots of Nazi party symbols on display that were quite iconic. The swastika flags, the banners. Hitler was arriving to great applause, was obviously hero worshipped. Mass rallies were held in Nuremberg each year, and many of you know that Nuremberg was the hotbed of Nazism. This question is just a description question. Describe the night of the long knives. This is quite an easy question, and you've just got to show your subject knowledge and outline your knowledge as best you can with a lot of detail using technical terms. So, for example, you could say that Ernst Röhm was believed to be planning a second revolution, that maybe he wanted to embed socialism, more of socialism into Germany. There was obviously a lot of rivalry between the SA and the Wehrmacht, the army. And Röhm and the SA wanted to assimilate the army into the SA. So Hitler felt threatened, and he had to get rid of this final threat towards his power. And this was the last serious challenge to his leadership, and therefore helped him to create his dictatorship and become the Führer. So if you were to describe the Night of the Long Knives, you would give the date, the 30th of June 1934. Hitler ordered the SS to carry out the arrest of leading members of the SA, including Röhm, and murder them. Many top SA leaders were arrested. 400 enemies of the state were shot dead, including Röhm. This sent fear through the rest of the SA, the Sturmabteilung, who were then assimilated into the army, who swore an oath of allegiance to Hitler. Hitler had consolidated his power and was now in command of a very powerful German army, and had grown his own instrument of terror, the SS. So the 30th of June was a very strategic night in the development of the Nazi Party, even though it was blood-stained. Explain why the Weimar governments of 1929 to 1932 were weak. 4 marks. You've got to do, for level 2, the highest result you can get here, you've got to do a detailed, accurate explanation. Go for 2 to 3 reasons. Firstly, the major economic and political problems that followed the Wall Street crash meant the Weimar Republic were very weak. They couldn't deal with the amount of unemployment from 1929 onwards. I don't believe any government would have been able to deal with it, because it hit Germany so hard after the Treaty of Versailles and the unfair terms that had impinged and hindered Germany throughout the 1920s. Also, the Weimar Republic was made up of coalition governments. This meant there were frequent elections, and nobody could pass through any laws or change through the Reichstag. Therefore, there was a lot of inactiveness, and this made the coalition governments, look uncaring, as if they were not dealing with Germany's problems in the early 1920s and the late 1920s. Therefore, the extreme groups such as the Nazi group, the Nazis from the right wing, and the communists from the left wing were able to attack the Weimar Republic and eventually destroy it. You could also discuss the idea of hyperinflation in the early 1920s made the Weimar Republic weak. The system of proportional representation meant that this form of democracy was actually a hindrance to the Weimar Republic as well. because no party could obtain an overall majority and absolutely take control of Germany. Explain why the Reichstag fire helped the Nazi Party. Again, 4 marks. You've now got to explain, add in depth and detail into a 1 or 2 paragraphs. Try and go for 2 to 3 reasons. Firstly, it helped the Nazis because they were able to blame his main political rivals, the communists, and discredit them and eliminate them from German society by making it look like van der Lubbe and the Communist Party had started the fire in the Reichstag. Chancellor Hitler was also able to persuade President Hindenburg, the aging Hindenburg, to pass a decree for the protection of the people and the state, which restricted free speech and the right of assembly, limited the freedom of press, and allowed imprisonment without trial. So communists, once again, and any opponents, political opponents, were able to be put in prison and could not affect Hitler's rise to power. Also, the Enabling Act came off the back of this, which meant Hitler was able to start to control the German population and German politics by eliminating any political opponent or threat. So communists, socialists, etc., that stood in his way, trade unionists, were eliminated and put into camps. It also made Hitler look more positive in the minds of the German people, discrediting the communists for the events of the Reichstag fire, showing that they could not be trusted and that his party was the party to be followed that would keep Germany safe. What was the impact of the Great Depression? Was the impact of the Great Depression the main reason why Hitler became Chancellor of Germany in January 1933? 10 marks, explain your answer fully. This is an extended essay, use the whole space provided on the paper, and it's a 2-sided yes and no answer. Discuss the impact of the Great Depression on Nazi support. Did it have a large impact? Was it significant? And discuss other factors that helped Hitler to become Chancellor. If you intertwine them and provide sustained analysis, you'll get a higher result or mark. So, firstly, if you identify a number of factors and discuss them in detail, we know that the economic collapse of 1929 created the conditions for the rise of Hitler and the Nazis. People wanted answers, they wanted solutions. There was a massive rise in unemployment, 6 million by 1932, and voters were frustrated by the failures of the Weimar Republic to tackle the serious economic issues. But it wasn't just the Great Depression. There were many other important factors. Yes, people wanted change, and yes, people wanted strong action and a leader who would absolutely give them simple promises: bread, work, and their national pride back. But there were other reasons. Hitler was a great speaker, very persuasive, very influential, and had a lot of presence and stature. He played his audience. He spoke to everyone as if he was speaking directly to them, and he attracted all different members of German society, making promises to the middle class, businessmen, the working class, etc. He told them what they wanted to hear, and he offered them jobs and hope. He promised to deal with the communists, and he promised to and Goebbels used propaganda to absolutely get into the minds and indoctrinate the thinking of the German population. This was also a very, very important reason why Hitler came to power. Goebbels, one of Hitler's leading Nazis, was Minister of Propaganda, and he was able to paint a good picture of Hitler and put him in a good light, but also give many messages to the German people to encourage them to follow Hitler and to believe in the policies, even the extreme racial policies of the Nazi Party. Added to all this, former chancellors such as Brüning, von Papen and von Schleicher had failed to deal with the Great Depression and the high unemployment it brought after 1929. Therefore, political scheming took place 1932 to 33, where deals were struck to try and become Chancellor and rule Germany. And what you had was chancellors like von Papen promising that they'd be able to control Hitler and rule with some Nazis in a coalition government if Hindenburg gave permission. But as we know, once Hitler was able to become Chancellor, he was able to manipulate and use a system such as the Reichstag Fire, the Enabling Act, to develop his leadership.